All right. There we go. Hello, 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 everybody. I am Jayme CheeseSlice, the engineer and producer of Uncontrolled Opposition. And that's the show you are watching right now, right here on Pasta to Go channel, because Craig Pasta Jardula is the executive producer of Uncontrolled Opposition. So if this is the first time you've ever watched the show, because normally we're a radio show, um, what we do is we have to record the show for the radio, and we could do that anytime. But we decided we're going to do it at the same time every week, 11 o'clock on Thursdays, and we'll just do it live on YouTube. And after we record the show here on YouTube, and we're also on Rumble and Twitter and some other streaming platforms. But after we record it, then I will take that recording and I'll edit it down to our hour block for the radio show. And then that goes up on the radio next week in an edited form. But you get to watch the entire show right here, unedited, warts and all. You get to see how the sausage is made. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and move forward with the show. I'm going to bring on Gloria and Jeremy. So, hello, you two. How are you guys doing? You ready for the show today?
Yes.
All right. And we've got two great guests. We're going to be talking about anti-NATO activism. Let's go ahead and bring them onto the stage, and then I'm going to hand off the show to Gloria. So we've got it's Ulla and Pippa. So welcome, ladies. Gloria is going to do her monologue and open the show, and I'm going to hand it off to her right now. And then once she's done with that, she's going to talk to you guys, and then you're off to the races and talk about everything you need to talk about. So, Gloria, the show is yours.
Hey, everyone. Welcome to Uncontrolled Opposition, where together we battle mind wars with truth strikes. I'm Gloria Guillo, an investigative journalist, and I'm here with my co-host, Professor Jeremy Kuzmarov, managing editor of Covert Action magazine. Our producer and engineer is Jayme CheeseSlice. The opinions you hear are ours and that of our guests, not those of WBAI or the Pacifica Foundation. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only and should not be interpreted as professional or legal advice. Listeners are encouraged to form their own opinions. Today we are joined by two remarkable peace activists from Europe whose work challenges one of the most important and least reported developments taking place today, the growing grassroots resistance to NATO expansion and the rapid militarization of Europe. Our guests are Ulla, Klötzer, and Pippa Bartolotti from Global Women for Peace United Against NATO, or GWUAN. Ulla has spent more than 4 decades as a peace, environmental, and democracy activist. She serves on the advisory board of World Beyond War and has held leadership positions in numerous organizations, including the Peace Union of Finland, Women for Peace, and Women Against Nuclear Power. She's devoted her life to building international networks committed to diplomacy, disarmament, and democratic accountability. Pippa is an author and longtime peace activist who is active with GWUAN, UNAC, Resist NATO, and the Palestine Solidarity Campaign. We worked together a few years back on the kickoff on the Sanctions Kill campaign. This is a campaign to bring awareness to covert warfare that uses economic weapons to kill by lethal selection. Lethal selection causes death through the denial of life necessities such as clean drinking water, wholesome food, medical care, and medicines, and protection from extreme cold and heat. This is done in place or in addition to bombs, bullets, biological, and chemical warfare. Together, Ulla and Pippa represent a growing movement of Europeans who are speaking out against policies they believe are pushing their continent towards permanent conflict. One reason this conversation is so important is because it stands in sharp contrast to the narrative most Americans hear through mainstream media. Coverage often focuses on military strategy, weapons deliveries, and geopolitical competition, but virtually no attention is given to the citizens across Europe who are organizing rallies, conferences, and public campaigns calling for negotiations, de-escalation, and a reassessment of NATO's expanding role. The Mockingbird news media is organized to make us think Europeans are supportive of NATO, or at minimum, apathetic to gangster-level war crimes and unconscionable power grabs that violate every aspect of the UN Charter involving human rights. We'll also discuss Jeremy's June 22nd article in Covert Action magazine, documenting how anti-war movements are increasingly challenging the presence of U.S. military bases around the world, not only in Europe, but in many countries hosting American military installations, with activists questioning whether these bases increase security or instead make their communities potential targets while limiting national sovereignty. The second article we'll discuss examines the European Union's proposed budget exceeding 2 trillion euros. The author, Drago Bosnick, writing for Global Research CA, argues that rather than reducing military tensions, the budget reflects an unprecedented commitment to military spending alongside continental funding for the Green Deal. The article contends that Europe is entering a new era in which defense expenditures, industrial policy, and environmental initiatives are becoming increasingly intertwined. Critics, including many peace activists and organizations, argue that these policies risk locking Europe into long-term militarization at the expense of diplomacy and domestic priorities. Fuel and food costs, for example, are shooting up exponentially in Europe. Today, we will hear directly from two ladies who are building international coalitions from the ground up. They offer us a perspective that many Americans rarely encounter as they walk us through the current state of the European peace movement, the public response to NATO's expansion, the debates surrounding the European Union's military priorities, and what they believe ordinary citizens can do to influence policy. We appreciate you both joining us. Ulla, please start with an overview, and then we'll go to Pippa since she has some time constraints today. Thank you.
Thank you, Gloria. And first of all, thanks a million for having been invited. It's a great honor for me. I will mostly stick to the GWUAN aspect, since that is what we are doing right now. But first of all, since I come from Finland, I want to mention that Finland joined NATO as late as April 2023, followed by Sweden, of course, then in March 2024. So Finland's membership doubled NATO's eastern border. It's quite heavy to Russia. My first NATO counter event was in Madrid, end of June 2022, when it got clear that Finland will ask for membership. But counter events against NATO have been held yearly since 2009, so they have a long tradition. In Madrid 2022, I met Pippa, fortunately, and Wright from Veterans from Peace in US, Paki Wieland from Women for Peace, Code Pink, US, Christine Karch from Germany, Yes to Peace, No to NATO movement. And we discussed the need for a women network for fast decisions without hierarchical structures. And Global Women for Peace Against NATO network was built up during spring 2023 very fast. It was based on the Madrid women group, but added by Kate Hudson from Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament, a very strong movement in the UK. Of course, strong Women's International League for Peace for Peace and Freedom, League for Peace and Freedom from Italy mostly, Patrizia Sterpetti, but also women from the US. And we all together invited women we had contacts with, because we had quite broad networks of our own, but now we combine them to a Zoom meeting where we decided to create a declaration, a platform for our network. And the work was done mostly by Kate Hudson from UK and Ada Donna, a remarkable Italian woman from Women of the Mediterranean Region Association. And we made a 2-page straightforward document, declaration against NATO. And I want to quote 4 points from the declaration. No to global NATO, no to increasingly militarized blocs, no to war as a way of settling international disputes. Number 2, no to the militarization of scientific research. The younger generation has the right to a secular and democratic education. inspired by the values of peaceful coexistence between peoples and states. Number 3, no to the involvement of women in patriarchy's war plans. No to any gender approach in NATO. Putting women in top roles in a warmongering military organization will do nothing to promote the principles of equality, justice, and peace that underlie women's struggles for freedom. Number 4, instead we say yes to respecting the authentic intentions of the UN Resolution 1325 on the participation of women in peace negotiations and processes. The declaration was adopted at another 2 meeting with a lot of other women, not only the Madrid group, because then we had already enlarged our network. And it was sent out to all our women networks around the world to be signed by so-called first signatories. And the women all signed as individuals, but mentioning their organization, because if they would have signed as organizations, we would have had a very heavy construction, because every decision would have needed to go by all these organizations. And if I remember right, we agreed about the name of the organization and the declaration March 2023. And the network is totally non-hierarchical, and it works as a forum actually for ideas and inspiration. And we forward appeals, declarations to sign, and important NATO news. There is no money and no staff, and every woman must take responsibility for the activities she proposes, with the help, of course, of the network and women interested in the same issues. It has worked so far quite well. In the beginning of July, we took this declaration to the NATO headquarters. It was a lot of fun. You should hear Anne Wright telling about the visit in the NATO headquarters. And the first signatories of women amounted to approximately 300 women from 36 countries. And later the declaration was signed online by some 1,000 more. And the NATO visit in Brussels in July 2023 was connected to our first big meeting, an online and physical 2 days meeting and a demonstration, and of course the NATO headquarters. And we had strong speakers from all over the world. The real NATO summit that year was in Lithuania, in Vilnius, but we didn't go there because we didn't have any peace contacts. There are no peace movements left in the Baltic states, and there is a total Russophobia, like also, unfortunately, in the Nordic countries. Since Brussels, GWUAN met also in connection with the Washington, D.C. counter event 2024, not an own event, but we were included in the big events. And in The Hague, we were in connection with a bigger, but also we had an own physical and online meeting, which was really great with many women. But we realized that all women from the world cannot travel to these counter summits. So we found the way to give greetings anyhow. We have made 2 photo collages, 2024, 2025, with women from all over the world saying no to NATO. And we have sent these photo collages to the NATO headquarters, to almost all governments and parliamentarians of the member states of NATO and partnership states, and to the European Commission and the European Parliament. Short about the NATO summit this year, it was a great problem since the Turkish government has no friendly approach to people protesting. And those anti-NATO activists that finally decided to go, they were already arrested at the airport and interrogated in a very hostile way and sent off back home. Now, what now? Now we are preparing a 3rd photo collage with the help of everybody. And this time it's not only women, but protests all over the world by male and female groups, small groups, big groups protesting against war in general. US foreign bases, nuclear weapons, cuts in the social welfare system due to military money. The Nordic welfare system is being brought down with a bang. And of course against NATO all around the world. If we find hands to help us, we will send this photo collage the same round as we have done with the other ones, but it's a big work. In many countries, like mine, mainstream media is avoiding to report about protests, especially small, important ones, in order not to create impulses for actions. And we find it important to show that there are people everywhere protesting. And we also have plans for a video clip collage with women parliamentarians critical of NATO. It will be hard, really hard, but if you find some cooperation with others, it would be really great. So Pippa, this was my overview. I hope you will add with webinars, Zoom meetings, cooperation with other organizations. We are not a very fast growing movement, Gloria. Thank you. We're very, very positive. We are doing our best, and it's a really hard situation in Europe, because we are really being pushed down and we get very little help from politicians. Pippa, please.
Thank you, Ulla, and thank you, Gloria and Jeremy, for inviting us onto your show. We are so happy to have this idea broadcast more widely. It's not, well, it was a fledgling idea. Now it is an active idea which has turned into a movement. So I'm Pippa Bartolotti, and author, activist, organizer. I've been to some of the most repressed areas in the world. For example, I drove in a convoy to Gaza. I've been to Ukraine. I've been to various other places, which are possibly best not to mention right now. But I met Ulla together with Leah and Anne in Madrid in 2021 when GWUAN was a fledgling idea. Well, it had to start somewhere, didn't it? So the declaration that Ulla talked about, and I'd like to expand on a little bit more, because it gives the heart of us and the essence of us. So here's an excerpt. We are women from across the world who deeply love our planet. We cherish the universal principles of equality, justice, and peace affirmed by the United Nations Charter and the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We fight for the affirmation of the rights of women and peoples against all forms of violence, exploitation, and discrimination. For decades, we've been engaged in the search for global peace, for a new world order that abolishes war. We recognize the role that capitalism plays in generating militarism and war, and we want a new, non-militarized security to ensure the life and health of present and future generations of all on this planet and of the planet itself. Our aspiration for peace is today threatened by the escalating arms race and the risk of nuclear war. The strengthening of military alliances, such as NATO, and the militarization of international relations. All this risks leading humanity to catastrophe. NATO's decisions since 1991 have in large part been responsible for this developing global confrontation. Well, that's an excerpt from our declaration, and it really tells you not just what we do, how we do it, but who we are in our hearts and in our minds. So anyway, let's start at the beginning. Let's start with what got us where we are today. The traditional myth that early humans operated under a strict division of labor where men hunted and women gathered is completely wrong. It is, in fact, a lie. Evidence demonstrates that women frequently and habitually hunted, actively participating in securing game, including big game. We were never the meek and subservient beings the patriarchy wanted us to be. Over 200 million years of biological and social progress, from the dawn of mammalian lactation to tool use, and now modern society, the female biological form has been a driving force of our species' survival and development. But we have been disenfranchised from the beginning of white colonial history, which of course is just a blink of history when you consider those 200 million years. Yet, before European colonization, many First Nations and indigenous societies across the Americas and elsewhere thrived under matriarchal and matrilineal systems. Far from the patriarchal stereotypes later imposed by colonial rule, women held immense political, spiritual, and economic authority as community builders, clan leaders, strategists, and peacekeepers. Writing women out of history is part of the patriarchal system. You know, you go to any city, particularly in Europe, you look at those statues on plinths of men looking proud on horses or, you know, looking important with books or what have you. Where are the women? Where are the women? Sometimes you see a statue of a woman, but she doesn't have a name. Very, very few women are honored. But their part in building the world is at least as important as the men's. Writing women out of the peace process makes it 70% more likely to fail.
Mm.
It is we who pick up the pieces after war. We nurse the wounded, the damaged, the children. We produce half the world's food supply. We build families and communities, and after conflict, we rebuild again and again. Yet we never wanted the wars, and we never started them. The systems today are not designed for us. The banks, the politics, the military, the institutions, the religions, the laws, the working day, the education systems, the wage structure, even modern medicine is mostly designed for male bodies. The war machine was never part of our world, and it never will be. Women today represent just a meager 16% of negotiators in active peace processes. Women are highly effective peacemakers because we excel at bridging grassroots coalitions with political elites, fostering inclusive dialogue across divided groups, and championing policies that address the root causes of conflict. Today, there is an uphill battle to reform our world into something more loving, more beautiful, more peaceful. We are burdened with an enduring struggle against the willful war machine, the profiteers, and the viciousness of the Epstein class. At GWUAN, we give women a voice. Through our webinars, we bring unsung experts with knowledge and honesty about the horrors of war and the part NATO plays in destruction and warmongering. We explore alternatives to war. We highlight the insidious role of NATO and the role it plays in militarizing society and femwashing the armed forces. We collaborate, as women do, with other organizations wherever we find common ground. We do not compete. Always we know we are stronger together. With the International Women's Association, Resist NATO, the United National Anti-War Coalition, the IPB, and many other activist organizations, we draw on the strength of others, make friends and alliances, and together we magnify our message. GWUAN meets NATO head-on every year, and our goal is to abolish it. NATO cannot be reconciled with our principle of taking care of the world, a principle we strive to affirm globally. At GWUAN, we acknowledge that many women across the world are economically challenged and cannot come to alternative NATO summits, but they can send their faces and their banners Every year we make a video collage of hundreds of women who know and understand that NATO is the enemy of peace and stability. At GWUAN, we have picked our struggle. We are focused. We are global women united for peace against NATO. Without the warmongering of NATO, the insupportable expenditure on weapons, the nuclear armaments, and the increasing militarization of our societies and schools, the world will be a safer and better place. Abolishing NATO won't solve all our troubles, but it will be a fine start. So why don't you all join us? Thank you.
Thank you, Pippa. Do we want to go back to Ulla and discuss kind of what it feels like right now in Europe with these proposed expansions in the budgets and things like that, and what's it like economically for everyone there?
And maybe if Ulla, you want to address for our audience, since you're in Finland, if you can just give a brief overview of the political situation in Finland and how they're really ramping up support for the war on Russia.
Yeah, first of all, of course, the situation in Europe is quite delicate because very, very, very slowly, but I think it will increase. People realize that the money going from war is taken from the welfare state. So the more problems we get with pensioners being able to survive and single mothers with small salaries, when the education system is being hurt and the social security is being hurt, people go to the streets, and we have seen it in Europe, the demonstrations against the cuts, and still you do not always see the slogans that change the military money to welfare, but it will come more, and there is already slogans like this. The political situation is, of course, very interesting because Macron is not very loved. Merz in Germany is also disliked. The UK Prime Minister had to go. So there is a shaky situation, and I think it will be even more shaky after a while. But still, the people are very heavy to move. And especially in the Nordic countries, and especially in Sweden and Finland, as new members, it's not easy to say that maybe we made the wrong decision. It will take years for them to back down. And the problem is, of course, now that Macron is pushing his nuclear umbrella on everybody, on top of the US umbrella. Finland has changed its energy law to permit nuclear weapons. It was forbidden in the law before, and this law was accepted this spring. But in Sweden, there are elections in the autumn. In Finland, there are elections next spring. We now have right-wing governments. And it looks as if, thanks to all, or due to, or whatever, these cuts in the welfare system, there are going to be more social democratic left governments. And we put in Finland our hope to that because the left parliamentarians voted against the new energy proposal. It's called energy because nuclear is energy both as civil for the civil production and warfare. So we would like to start pushing the new eventual better government next spring to change the law again, to prohibit the nuclear weapons. And we have a long tradition. We have Olof Palme, former prime minister of Sweden, that was shot, obviously, by CIA, Friendly Alliance. And we had Urho Kekkonen, a long-time Finnish president from the Center Party, who both worked for nuclear-free zones in the Nordic countries. And if we there could make coalitions between Sweden and Finland and start pushing it with the help of the rest of the world, we could maybe get a start. Yeah, and the situation is, I would say at the moment, interesting, because there are so many things going on with the dislike of political leaders. So we have to hope that the dislike is getting stronger, and we need a political change. Although I have the feeling that, okay, we get a political change, but after a while they turn into the same bloody mess as the other ones. And we have to remember that it was, unfortunately, a women prime minister from our former social left wing government that started the NATO negotiations and brought and signed the paper for the US jet fighters 64, which we have now coming to Finland, which are going to be shut down before they even have risen up to the air. So it's a delicate situation, and my faith in women, okay, it's great on an NGO basis, like with Pippa and all the GWUAN women and women all over the world. But as soon as they become politicians, they forget what they were aiming at. And we have such a clear example of the left-wing government we had before this right-wing. We had there was a majority of women, and they ordered the fighter jets, and they started the NATO negotiations. So yes, I love women, but not as politicians. Thank you.
Could you tell us a little bit about the Russophobia? How is it effective in Finland? Jeremy and I have spent some time on Russophobia in the United States, and I talked about some of my early memories with cartoons that they were telling us, with certain cartoons like Bullwinkle the Moose. There were characters that were Russian characters, Boris Badenov and Natasha, and they were always blowing up something. So as kids, we associated the Russians with bombs and blowing things up. And then we were forced to do all of these fallout shelter drills because the Russians were going to blow us up. And, as little children, we were huddled, into fallout shelters, thinking that the Russians were going to bomb us. So, what kind of tactics and techniques were done and are continue to be done that are creating that environment?
Yeah, I think the tactics are coming from the US, unfortunately, because we have had since the war, which we lost against Russia, and we had to give up certain areas and so on. We have slowly, thanks to the earlier mentioned Urho Kekkonen and some other very, very good politicians, we had built up a good position with Russia. We had this kind of friendship pact, which, okay, it was made on the Russian, more for Russia, but we had a lot of business. We had a train going in 3 hours to St. Petersburg. Now the border is totally closed. We had politicians that started the OSCE procedure. That was a Finnish invention, actually. And we started this security for Europe for all, including Russia. We have had HELCOM, we have had different commissions for the Baltic Sea operating to clean it and so on. Everything is closed now. Everything the Russia has to go out. And this was, of course, Finland and Sweden were very important for NATO. And we were very reluctant. We didn't want to. The Finnish people were to 70% against. What happened? In 2014, they had the Ukraine coup. NATO and US knew that if they can sow this small piece of doubt that Russia is not only now going to be angry with Ukraine, but with the rest of Europe, then Finland will get afraid and say, okay, we join NATO. So I would say that was the start. That was the last chess piece in the big NATO chess game of NATO and US. And of course, Vladimir Putin at the Munich Security Conference in 2007, he clearly warned. He said, not a step more to the east. And still, Ukraine was being eager to join and was promised to join NATO. So then he lost his nerves and attacked Ukraine, which of course was not good. But the frustration was there. They had warned several times. And but that pushed Finland overnight into NATO. 1 month before, there was 70% of the Finnish population saying no to NATO. Overnight, they turned around. And this was a dirty trick. This was really a dirty trick.
One thing that hits me is, you have this long history that you recall the good days when there was cooperation and peace. Children who are growing up now since 2014 only know war, so they are being, propagandized.
Yes, I was a teacher in Waldorf in a Rudolf Steiner school, and I always took my 8th classers for a farewell tour, because then I left them for the next stage. And I have traveled with them in Romania, in Italy, and so on. And I always dreamt about taking one group to St. Petersburg and small Novgorod and Ladoga Lake and so on. But the parents were always a bit careful. But my last group before my getting retired, the parents were absolutely, yes, great, go to Russia. So we went there, and my pupils, 22, 15-year-old kids, they were amazed. They said, look at the art, look at everything, and they had expected something else. And they got friends with people in Kremlin, in Novgorod, and when we went back on the train, one of the boys said, I would like to live here. Wow. That was the friendship we had at that time, but it was really destroyed. And now was the war.
What year was that? Do you remember? That's before 2014?
No, it was, it must have been after. It was after.
So there was there was still good feelings. It's been eroding in the last.
Yes, the 2014 coup, people in Finland didn't understand it. They still say that the US had nothing to do with it.
Wow.
They still say it. And even my sister, she's 10 years older than me. We cannot discuss these things because she says Russia is bad. We lost the war against Russia. And that turned overnight with the Ukraine war. So the Ukraine war was deliberately created to again say that Russia is the bad guy. We had really good business at the eastern border of Finland, which is quite a poor area. Russians, when they were able to travel, they came over by cars, they came by train, they went shopping, they bought even land and built summer houses, and they had real good business in that area. And when the border closed, they all went bankrupt. What? And still, the Finnish enterprises that had been built up to serve the Russian upper middle class that wanted to come to Finland.
This is after 2014?
That is after 2022 when Russia attacked
very
Ukraine.
recent.
It's very recent.
Yeah.
It's very recent. Before that, I could go in 3 hours to St. Petersburg.
Wow.
Now I have to go via Estonia, first by boat to Estonia, then by bus from Tallinn to the border, and then walk over the border, and then take a new bus going to St. Petersburg. I did it in 2024. It took me one whole day. I started at 7 o'clock in the morning from Helsinki, and I was in St. Petersburg at 11.
And normally it would have taken you a couple of hours.
3 hours.
3
3
hours.
hours.
Wow. Wow.
And this all happened in 2022. Before that, it was okay. So you see how it really turned overnight. And now everybody says Putin wants to take Finland. He has had no intentions. He has hands full with other things. And we have destroyed OSCE as institution that could deal with these things. We have destroyed HELCOM, which is a commission for taking care of the Baltic Sea. We have destroyed that too.
Is there a fascist group in Finland?
I wouldn't maybe call it fascist, but they are nationalists, and they are even in the government. But
and they're welcoming this conflict.
Yes, they are in the government, and they are. We have raised 4 billion euros for Ukraine for weapons, and we have another 4 billion going there. Our President Alexander Stubb, who was recently on this funeral in Washington of this Israel and Ukraine friend,
Lindsey Graham.
Yes, yes, and Alexander Stubb, our president, he is hugging Zelensky, and he would hug Lindsey Graham if he would be still alive.
Mm-hmm. And maybe
so you see.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just wanted to draw on Pippa, because you said you're from Wales. Because I know you have to leave, and maybe you can just say something about the situation there. I found that interesting on the webinar I attended was excellent. I learned about your group through this webinar, and I learned so much because they had people from all different European countries were talking about different protests at different U.S. military bases. And some of those places I didn't even know there were military bases. And I think a lot of Americans don't know that, like in Netherlands and stuff like that. And then there was a discussion about Wales and how a more left-leaning party had come in and they were against the U.S. bases there. So you do have some politicians who are more progressive. I don't know if you can say something about that, because you said that you're from Wales, or you lived there at one point.
I've been living in Wales for about 40 years.
Oh, okay, great.
I'm in the US at the moment, so I kind of straddle the politics between Europe, the UK, and America. So, yeah, I mean, Wales, Scotland, and Ireland are definitely not in the same place as England on most matters of war and militarization. But, you know, Wales is not very big. It does rely on England for tax receipts to be paid back to it and so on. And it's a poor country, but it's actually a much more equal country. And there is much happiness in a more equal country, as we well know. If you ever read the Spirit Level and saw the stats on happiness indexes, and, you know, more equal countries don't have as many prisons, as many people in prison, schooling's better, you know, all sorts of things in the equality indexes. So in Wales, we have a Labour government. More recently, it's a Plaid Cymru government now, as a nationalist government. More recently, we have been working as activist groups with one bonding issue, which has bonded a lot of the UK, and that is on the genocide in Gaza. This has made a huge awakening amongst people, especially young people who don't bother with the mainstream news anymore. I think there are figures to show that mainstream media is declining quite sharply, whereas social media and alternative media are very much, just like yourselves, on the rise. People want to hear what's really going on, not the sort of painted cut and paste Zionist press release that was sent out. So I think that the Palestine issue has been very uniting amongst people who would never have gone to the streets on activism before and who feel sufficiently moved to act now. On the question of NATO, of course, we have to say that in Britain there are a lot of military bases. I mean, worldwide, there are nearly 900 US military bases. Some of them, like where were we earlier in April? The Lakenheath, thank you.
And Faslane.
In Lakenheath, for example, it's still called an RAF base. It's not. It's a US base. We've been up to, in America, in the north of New York State, where they manufacture and fly drones, killer drones. People don't know it's there. In West Wales, in Aberporth, the military, the UK military, has let Elbit Systems, an Israeli company, build and test their drones there. And so we go on and on and on. The infiltration of a high level of militarization in our towns and villages around Wales and the UK is really quite alarming. And of course, jobs. Let's not forget, people do need jobs, and sometimes people find themselves doing something really they'd rather not do, but it may be reasonably well paid and accessible to them, and they will take it. But that doesn't mean to say they're enjoying it. And this is the world we are descending into, really. In Germany, for example, where the automotive industry's gone down the Swanee, really, they're turning it over to making tanks and armaments. Germany, who insists on this special relationship with Israel, for example, won't let go of that and is feeding the war in Iran through manufacture, through use of its air bases, and in Britain is just as guilty. The new Prime Minister, Andy Burnham, who he didn't even replace, he went, it was a coronation. Nobody got a vote. No, not even the Labour Party members got a vote. He was just, Keir Starmer being the most unpopular Prime Minister in history, which is quite an achievement on its own, actually, was replaced by Andy Burnham, the ex-mayor of Manchester, who was slid in because he had a nice northern voice and people tended to trust him and think he was more working class. Which he's not, of course. He's an out-and-out Zionist, just like the one before him. Nothing's going to change. So, and the general election is quite some way away just yet. We really have more hopes of change in the US, where we're expecting the midterm elections on November the 4th, I think, this year, where hopefully Trump, who, again, is at an all-time low, I think the last poll showed him lower than Bush, which is another great achievement when you think about it. He does stand to lose the House of Representatives, but the money being poured into these elections. Just a month ago, there was a primary election where they have these kind of runoffs to choose the Democratic Party nomination for the election. The money that was spent, I think it was like $22 million on not letting a pro-Palestine, pro-socialist, pro-welfare candidate, this is within the Democratic Party, they spent all this money so that he would not get elected. It was
we've seen that also in the Republican Party. I mean, Trump had campaigned that he was the peace president, that he was going to end the war in Ukraine and not start any other. So, everybody lies. And Jeremy and I always track who votes for what. And the Republicans and the Democrats, when it comes to world peace, vote in lockstep. Only a few of them will vote against it because they can. They know that nothing bad will happen. It's It's basically
amazing.
theater. It's theater.
It is.
Oh yeah, and in the European context, we've seen, as Ulla was pointing out, a lot of these social democratic parties adopted the most fervent Russophobia. I know that was true in Germany.
Yeah.
But
well,
I don't know.
Actually,
Do you think that?
Just to butt in, Jeremy, do you remember the Alanina Baerbrock, who was
Oh
leader
yeah,
of
the green, the
Party?
green.
Yeah, and Gloria was part of the Green Party.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
But
was
I don't know. Do you
also
think that,
elected on a peace ticket.
Yeah.
And
then we had Howie Hawkins, who was going to run for president.
Yeah.
Actually, he did. He ran for president on the Green Party, and he was promoting weapons to Ukraine.
He was.
And we had Sanna Marin, who was the former prime minister from the Social Democratic Party. When she stepped out from politics, she got rewarded by being invited to Tony Blair's whatever congregation he has, and she gets a fat salary and travels to all these G7 and Bilderberg and so on. Absolutely crazy.
I wonder, do you think now with this upsurge in activism among young people that you guys are describing and the growth of your organization, that maybe some of these more left-wing leaders will stick to an anti-war position, or will we see these continued sellouts?
I think
I really don't.
Enough people lose their seats before there'll be a change. Politics is terribly broken. I mean, democracy hardly exists. I mean, in Britain, if you one vote every 5 years, it's not democratic at all. And here, of course, in the States where I am at the moment, there hasn't been democracy for quite a long time, not real democracy. And a lot of people are not interested. They're batting their own corners, and as you know, just like in Europe, the cost of living is skyrocketing, and Trump's asking for another $1.5 trillion to send to Israel, and everybody's watching their healthcare impossible. I mean, people are dying because they can't afford healthcare. They don't take out loans because they don't want to leave their husbands, wives, children with the loan problem to pay back, so they sit at home and die. It is actually tragic.
But it's also a way to keep people silent, to keep them down. They have so much to do in order to manage the ordinary life, that if you say, come to a demonstration, do this, oh no. And many of them even are afraid that if they are seen on the streets, they might not get a job. And we often ask, why is it only elderly people that take part in many of the demonstrations and actions? Yes, because we have nothing to lose. We cannot lose our jobs anymore. Yes, we can maybe get less pension if they start punishing us that way, but they do it anyhow. So I think this way of tearing down the welfare system and building up the warfare system with that money is also a way to keep people low and silent. Especially young people. It's only the most radical that really want to show that we are fed up. And in a way, I support Pippa when she says that Gaza has actually given a cut, because we had many young people in the Gaza demonstrations in Finland. But on the other hand, it hasn't changed the government. They are still silent about the genocide. So when the young people see that we go demonstrating, they are not as persistent as we old ladies and men. When they see that nothing helps, they say, okay, what's the use? What can I do?
Well, we refer to that
and this is the problem with politicians that do not listen. We should get rid of all the politicians and start from a fresh table, but that's
they take the money, they take the bribes. It's open. It's not even a secret anymore. They just do it. And when you say about fear, you know, in Britain, there are 2,500 people in jail for holding a sign that says Palestine Action.
Yeah.
So they're trying to use these people as a deterrent. So as if to say, well, if you do this, you'll get the same. And, you know, they have arrested people who can't walk, people who are 80 or 90 years old, people of, you know, vicars and priests. They're arresting anybody who dares do this. And for some of them, the penalty is huge. And just to slightly move the subject a little bit on climate change, which of course for the military is the greatest polluter, and as it bombs and creates more and more wars around us, the pollution is becoming indescribable. And of course the military,
well, I think we agree strongly on the damage that the military does to the environment, especially with local bases. I mean, we even know in the United States, wherever you have a base, they're doing all kinds of stuff that's dumping into the water supply, into the air.
And this PFAS,
Yes.
there's been a lot of research, and that in the webinar there was one or two of the speakers emphasized that, and that is like it stays in the water for generations.
It's cancer causing. It really is. And of course we have the same problem with data centers, which you know, several hundreds are planned across America, but you know, people have been demonstrating, don't want these in our neighborhood. They're so noisy and they're vile and they're polluting. And Trump has just passed an order saying that all data centers are now military installations. They get tax breaks and they don't have to get planning permission from anybody. So it's a real battle, whichever way you look. But that doesn't mean to say that we won't be continuing to fight.
Exactly.
Right.
We have to fight back all the more that we've got to fight back.
Yes.
We can't allow this to continue and to destroy our society.
What we talk a lot about on Uncontrolled Opposition is this PSYOP, the psychological warfare, where if they can hide, you know, the anti-war and the peace movement, then people will be more apathetic because they think that nobody's doing it. So why should they bother? Yeah. And so I think it's just so important that the work that you ladies are doing to bring this knowledge to Europe, but also to bring it here to the United States, so that, you know, we know that you're there, and it's inspiring. And I think that's a big part of what you do. You're counteracting this this negative apathy that they're feeding to us, and you are the antidote for it. And, you know, whether or not we can actually stop war, because there's this assumption that it's through negotiation, where the truth of the matter is, the more war, the more the bankers make money, the more the military industrial complex makes money. And so it's a really, it's a class issue at the highest level. They see it as, you know, as a moneymaker. And Jeremy and I also talk about, you know, Smedley Butler, and, you know, war is a racket. It's a business making enterprise. So they don't want peace. There's really not a negotiation. But what we can do is say, we do not support this class. We do not support this elite that is, you know, destroying our lives at home, you know, in our civil communities, and also, you know, just the whole war machine and you know, all of that. So anyway, what you're doing is fantastic. I think we really should spend a little time on how our viewers can follow the important work that you're doing. So please, I guess starting with Pippa, please, you know, reintroduce yourself and where people can follow your work, and then we'll close with Ulla as to, you know, what people can do and, you know, what's going on there.
Well, the first thing you can do is go to the GWUAN website, which is www.womenagainstnato.org. See what we're up to. Look at some of our webinars, which of course are part of the educational side of what we do, because as you both realize, not a lot of people understand what NATO is about, what it's doing, and how it's doing it. One of our most viewed webinars was the one in which we looked at the militarization of space. And I think it's really, really important that people understand what is going on beyond the history books and the wars of yesterday. The wars of tomorrow are going to be very different. And, you know, this whole AI thing that's coming on stream, we're working with that and working on webinars to show just how painful to us all this type of manipulation of data is going to be. And to make people aware of the propaganda as much as possible. You know, just briefly, the stats came in yesterday. In the US, there were 600 dead and wounded in the Iran war. And so far, I think they've only admitted to a handful. You can keep death secret from even families for quite a long time. So there is a real need for alternative media such as yourselves to start getting the message out. We are on Facebook. We're also on Twitter. Join our mailing list where we have discussions. Join our newsletter list where we put out actions and what we're doing more broadly. People, please sign up. Please join us. Please understand more about what NATO is doing, and by arming yourself with information, you can be with us and you can help bring us more contacts and give women and the peacemaking attitudes of women a voice.
Thank you. And is this open to men too? I mean, this is a safe space for women, but do we also allow men into this organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's predominantly women. And we do want to give women predominantly a voice, especially the unheard experts. You know, I listen to a lot of YouTube channels, political analysts, and they're all men. And sometimes I just want to switch off. Because
can Jeremy join?
Yes.
Jeremy can join. We do have men on our list. Of course we do. We adore men. Don't be ridiculous. But
okay.
You know,
and then we're running out of time. Ulla, please, how can people follow you?
Through GWUAN's website. I'm not on Twitter and not on anything. I'm an anti-Twitterer. So you can't follow me on social media, but you can find some information on Google, I'm sure. But I would like to say that I think that what we do with every webinar, I take the time to go through the lists of those who have taken who have participated, and I every time find new women. And I think that is good, because then you see that it's broadening. And I think that with every new woman we find, we can bring the information on. And maybe that woman signs an appeal or goes to a demonstration, I don't know. But as long as we have this hope, we can go on working. And we will have coming in September, October, we will have a webinar on Eastern Europe, which is a hard task to reach, because they are really afraid of being against NATO, and maybe also protesting for peace, I don't know. And we also will have a webinar on artificial insanity, I call it, to cover, because NATO has also a document on this, so we can take it out of a NATO perspective.
And artificial insanity is AI.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
just checking.
Yes.
Good. All right.
NATO is nuclear armed terrorist organization, NATO. That stands for NATO.
Thank you.
And I would like to say that the webinars are really for us very important, and sending out declarations and so on to sign and to activate women to be, and don't give up. I think that every time we meet a new woman, we are one step closer. And I really want to thank you for having invited us, because you are also many steps further, because you can get out and bring the message to people. We will never
try.
give up.
We try. Well,
we all try.
We have to end the show. I'm so sorry, and we really thank you for coming, and it's just really been an honor and a pleasure to have you here. The opinions you hear are ours and that of our guests, not those of WBAI or the Pacifica Foundation. That wraps up our show for today. This is Uncontrolled Opposition. I'm Gloria Guillo, joined by Professor Jeremy Kuzmarov. Remember to like and share our broadcast. Your kind support keeps us going. Please find us on Substack, Twitter X, and Podbeam. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to see you next week.
Great. Well, thanks so much. That was a great show, and we'll try and promote this as much as we can online. So, and I'll definitely attend your next webinar, because the last one I attended was very good, very informative, and hopefully I can do an article as well.
Can you send us links to where we can see this?
Oh, we will. Yeah, we will.
Yeah, I'll send it. I'm going to put it right after the show, so I'll send it to you right away.
Yeah,
and we will send it on to our networks also, Nordic and so on.
Great.
Yes,
and then we're going to have a podcast, which is really nice, because Jayme does a fantastic job editing stuff, and he gets it down to exactly 1 hour, and it's easy to listen to for people.
Great.
So we'll give you that too.
There is an initiative from Sweden now, which is a kind of platform for peace, peace between peoples and peace with nature. And Tord Björk is now on a big tour in Europe, and he will go to the social forum, wherever it is in Africa, I think, this year, and try to get more people for that. And then we will start in the autumn with this nuclear weapon-free zone, which is not a global GWUAN project, but they are connected. And this is what we are doing, to connect the projects so that we can support each other.
Great. Ulla, what was the name of that Finnish president who worked with Olof Palme? I'm going to look more into him.
He was before Olof Palme. He was Urho
Can you spell that?
Kekkonen. K-E-K-K-O-N-E-N.
Okay.
I can send you some material on that.
Okay, because it's good to at least look up some of the good politicians. Yeah, we've done some articles at Covert Action on Olof Palme and how the CIA was behind his murder.
And he was murdered.
Oh yeah,
he was murdered because of his peace engagement.
Yeah,
and Gorbachev also made some kind of support for a Nordic nuclear-free zone. I will send you some material on that.
Okay.
It's very interesting, because we have now to drag it out of history and start again.
Yeah, and we have to remind people there are some good politicians. If we work hard, we can get
but nothing will get you killed faster than peace.
No.
I remember that was something kind of similar to that John Lennon's son, Sean, had said. They were like, we had the author of a book on, I forgot his name. Do you remember?
Oh, David Whalen.
We got to bring David. We got to bring him back.
Book about how the CIA was behind John Lennon's murder. Yeah, he did a lot of research, and he's a British author. Yeah.
And there was another Swedish woman, Anna Lindh. She was foreign minister, I think. She was also murdered. And she was also very, very keen on peace actions. And then when the nuclear, when the United Nations took this
I'm sorry, Ulla. I actually have to go now.
Oh,
yes, okay.
Thanks.
I'm going to say goodbye. And
Okay.
Thank you so much. Good to
on.
see you again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, and lovely to see you too, Gloria. Bye now.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. I'm going to have to leave in a few minutes, but go ahead.
Yeah, there was another Swedish foreign minister that was promoting this prohibition of nuclear weapons in the UN. She was really a front figure, and she came home to Sweden, and it had been accepted in the UN to be signed and so on. And she resigned from the government because the I don't remember the name of the US foreign minister, but he came to Sweden, and after his visit in Sweden, she resigned out of personal. So she was threatened. She was a very courageous woman, really strong. She believed in that talk for peace and you will be killed.
Yeah, it's ironic, you know.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Okay. But
Well, thank you so much. And we hope
thank you. Stay strong.
More in the future.
Can I bring up one point that in the chat they noticed they went to your website or the Women Against NATO website, and we noticed that the link seemed to be broken. When you click on the main page works, but when you click on any of these links, it's taking you to a gaming website. So you might want to talk. Yeah, you might, if you try to contact you, this is all borked up. So you might want to talk to the people who run your website to try to get that fixed.
Well, at least it's not porn sites. I mean,
that's
another
thing.
Yes. That's another thing the CIA likes to do is, you know,
and
porn site.
They at least did not kill us yet.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Small blessings. Small blessings.
Okay.
Well, I'm sure that's
Thank
easy
you.
to get fixed. But
I'll be sending you the link in the next short little while, so you can promote it. Yeah, promote the show.
And the show will come out on Tuesday. So after Tuesday, I'll be able to send you the podcast links with Jayme's fantastic magical editing.
Thank you, Jayme, for the warning. This is the way they are operating. So
absolutely.
Okay, we have got too much advertisement.
All right. Well,
stay strong, everybody.
Okay.
With that,
thank you.
Wrap up. So thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Ulla. Thank you, Pippa. Thank you, Jeremy and Gloria, for doing the show today. We are a presentation by Pasta to Go. Craig Pasta Jardula is our executive producer. We'll be back next week with another episode and look forward to the radio drop next week of this show. So have a good one, everybody. Bye-bye.